Welcome to another episode of the Founder to Founder podcast. My name is Aaron Spivak, born and raised in Toronto, Ontario, here in Miami, and I've built multiple 7, 8, and 9-figure brands and recently just had the third largest D2C transaction in Canadian history. But today is not about me, because today you get to listen to another incredible story of the founder behind the founder, and we get to dive deep into what it takes to build something incredible. It's not always the tips and tricks, it's how you go about your life. So join us for another incredible podcast at the Founder to Founder. Today's podcast is sponsored by Sorrel, the one tool that you absolutely need to be using when it comes to influencer marketing. Imagine one tool, not spreadsheets, all these other things to consolidate everything you need. The dashboards, the relationship management, the payments, the performance report, all happens in one spot. It's like having a marketing expert on your team. So today, you can book a call with Sorrel. They'll bring the experts. They'll teach you how to use the platform. And of course, they'll make sure that you get the most bang for your buck. They've got a free trial. So just go test it out. See if you like it. They're a great sponsor of the pod. Check out Sorrel. Well, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode. Today, we are with a legend, Austin Copeland, Miami native now. In Miami now. Welcome to the pod, brother.
Thank you, man. It's good to be here.
So I like to introduce people typically like I would introduce them at a networking event, you know? So like imagine you and I were actually just at one. We were at the VaynerMedia event and I was introducing you to people. So the way I would introduce to everyone who's listening today, I would introduce Austin as the youngest, but also the most inspiring young person I've met in a long time. I've met a lot of young people. And I don't just toss that around. So I really want people to dive in today because I think what you've done and what you continue to do and how you've even got yourself to the point where you're at now is an incredible story. So welcome to the podcast, brother. Tell the people, where does this entrepreneurial bug that lands somebody with quite a large business at 21 years old, where does it all start for you?
Such a good question. For me, I think it starts at the dinner table. It may be similar to you, but I grew up with two parents that, you know, the language at the dinner table wasn't Spanish, it wasn't English,
Mm-hmm.
it was business, it was entrepreneurship. And at a young age, if I didn't speak the language, I wasn't welcome at the dinner table.
Wow.
Or I couldn't add conversation to it because I just didn't know it. So it quickly matures you to learn about what mom, what dad is doing, because both my parents were entrepreneurs and equally successful in their own rights. And that was their free time. You know, they were both working during the day and they really went to bed early. And so the debrief time to go through the businesses was at the dinner table.
Wow.
And I think was kind of shaped like the start of like my love for business. That's what got the roller going.
When was like the first time, you know, growing up around, I'm a big, I mean, you know this, I talk about environment all the time. So obviously if you're in the environment of entrepreneurship, it's happening all around you, that you're naturally going to be inclined to like kind of look for that. It's kind of like that, like, you know, red pill theory in a sense. It's like, what did you see? You see what you pay attention to, what's around you. When was your first little taste of entrepreneurship for yourself?
It was like this experience. Like I would go down to the beach during the summer because I lived in Philadelphia. And if anybody's from that area, you realize like, you know, if you have a little bit of money, you go from the, you know, living in the suburbs of Philadelphia, and then you drive to the Jersey Shore, kind of like the famous TV show everybody knows, in the summers. And I would sell these rainbow loom bands and paper, like, and duct tape wallets.
The squiggly bands?
Yeah, at like 11 years old, bro.
Yes.
And I won't lie, like I was enamored by the money I was getting because I could then like buy things, but I was also in love with like, you know, I got to see, you know, girls, and I got to learn and experience life like super early because I just was like, Mom, Dad, I want to make money. How do I go make money? Right? I didn't want to go to camp. I didn't want to do these things. I wanted to like go out on my own. I was like being a free spirit almost in a way. Right.
Wow. And so that was kind of like your first taste. How old were you then?
I was 11.
You were, and then where did it go from there?
From there, it just like the addiction started, as they say. Right? after that, I was like, okay, I want to try a restaurant. So I started flipping burgers at like 13. I went to camp for 1 year because my parents.
Who let you work the stove?
Bro, I was barely legal. I got the working permits, bro. I got the working permits. They gave it to me in New Jersey. At 13, you could work. I was working dishwasher, and I was the fastest kid to go. At 13, I was the youngest he's ever employed. I got out of the dishwasher faster than anybody, and I did a good job. I took pride in washing these dishes and making sure everything was good. And then immediately I was starting flipping burgers at the front. And then compliment after compliment, we go, this has been coming here for 6 years. It's the best burger I've ever had. And, you know, I grew a passion for it and then realized I never wanted to be in the restaurant business ever again.
It's no joke.
Oh my God.
So meanwhile, you're in what school? 13, like elementary school, really, at least in Canada, it would be like elementary school.
Grade, man. Like, yeah.
This is insane. Yes. And what were your parents kind of saying throughout this journey? Was it like, were you seeking some sort of, you know, like validation from them to be like, hey, like, look, mom and dad, I can do this entrepreneurial stuff too? Or was it kind of like, hey, this is just super fun? And they were kind of like, yeah, Austin's just flipping burgers today.
You know, a lot of it was like my parents had worked really hard to get us into this yacht club. It was a big deal for them. And there was this big camp program that they did. And they had pushed me to like actually go into this camp program and not work. And I was like, you know, so if I were to seek the validation, I was sort of going opposite of what they wanted me to do. I was like, these people don't fit with who I am. I want to be around these kids that are working. And like, you know, most of these are college kids and like older than college, trying to make some money during the summer so they can go buy beers. And for me, it was like, I just wanted money in my pocket so I could like have it, you know. I just loved that feeling. And so I think the motivation was less so the family, but this like bug that I got when I was super young about just seeing my parents and like wanting to go after what they did.
You know, I resonate a lot with that because I remember like also around 13, 14 when I would, you know, do these party buses or I would seal driveways, you know, in Toronto, like you have to seal the driveway with this stuff. You'd go to the department store, you'd buy it. And, you know, I'd work all day and I'd make like $100, you know? And I remember like taking the $100 and like folding it really nicely, putting it in a place where no one will ever find it in my room, you know, and I would like start to stack it. It's very interesting because it's most of the time I wouldn't even tell my parents, you know, they'd be like, what were you today? I was like, oh, I was working, sealing driveways. They didn't know I was making any money. And it's so interesting how that type of drive just starts to manifest at such a young age. And, you know, I really want to get into, and I think a lot of people are going to benefit from this, the idea of growing up too fast. But before we get there, I need to know what eventually led you to, how old were you when you sold your business?
I was 19. Yeah.
Tell me the story from a 13-year-old to a 19-year-old. When did it start? And how did you know that this was something that you wanted to pursue?
Yeah, it's like such a good question. I think it started by following my passion, but quickly realized like I was good at it. And I think like a lot of people go, always follow your passion. I don't always quite agree with that. I think like what you're good at quickly turns into your passion. For me, it was like playing video games, like was like my outlet after school and stuff. I was still a 3-sport athlete. I still did all this stuff in high school, but I loved playing video games after all of that was done. And I just realized that this industry was so young and so new. It wasn't like real estate where there's a ton of gray hairs that are sort of blocking young kids from coming in. So like 14, 15, I'm starting in gaming and have, you know, a full passion in a team that I'm running just recreationally. That then turned into selling hoodies and monetizing. First ever team within that game to monetize things. And then it moved up from there. There was this game and during COVID, because this is now you're really understanding how young I am. I am like 16, 17 years old during COVID, nothing to do, man. And so I start in a game called Valorant. That's when this game came out. And I said, I want to come and find the best people. So I watched the movie Moneyball a couple of years before, and I was like,
amazing movie.
I want to create Moneyball in this game. It's so new, nobody's going to do it. And I found this mentor that like at such a young age, he was like 32 and he stuck by me. His name was like Hector Rosero. He did huge presentations at UCLA, Stanford, all these places. He said, if you look at data analytics like this and we bring it into this game, we can go source the best talent and then go sell it to the NBA leagues, basically. So we're the G League. We're selling it to selling this talent to the NBA leagues. I'm 16, managing these organizations. And that's how it started, as like played video games, sourced incredible talent through these different communities. And then as I found these different player analytics models, put together a team of misfits, basically, that didn't look good on paper, and then was able to sell them the talent to the highest leagues, and they competed.
Wow.
And that was sort of at 16. No other industry would let a young kid like that in.
What I am most curious about is, what the school kids were doing at the time. And the reason I bring that up is because, we'll dive into the business and how it manifested. But I'm always so curious to the psychology behind what leads us to the next thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we often find, for those of you who listen to the podcast consistently, there's a constant trend when, we bring on a lot of successful entrepreneurs and, young and a little bit older, it doesn't matter. There's a trend of allowing the next thing to flow in and then deciding whether you're excited about it or not. And for me, it's always so impressive when that next thing flows in, you decide you want to go in, and it's totally against the tide of everyone who's around you. At 16, during COVID, what were most kids doing that you were at school with, that you grew up with? Like, what was happening? Was it just crazy gaming all day? Like, what was it?
I think COVID for people was the worst moment in their entire lives. I think, especially for my generation, it just shocked people in a way that I don't think anybody was even trained or used to. And it allowed people to be lazy. And I think the environment for me was the motivating factor. I really rebelled against the idea of high school, especially the one I was at. I didn't feel like anybody was like me, and nobody had a motivating fire. And I think COVID just allowed people to get lazier. And for me, it was I need, the dinner table. My parents keep getting more successful. My mom had a safety business, 75 years, 3 generations. And so her world was lit on fire during COVID. She needed to sell masks, gloves, and protect, US manufacturers and distributors. So I'm listening to my mom and my dad basically go, we need to seize the moment of COVID. Austin, what are you going to do about it? And I'm scaling this, gaming stuff while this is all happening. And my parents are in some capacity a little stressed because it's so much coming at them at one time. And I was like, I want to play a part in this. This journey of COVID isn't going to be a negative story for myself. It's going to be a positive one. And it's about, how do I turn that moment of negativity, because everybody is really just bent out of shape about this COVID stuff, into something positive. And yes, we're stuck in our homes. We can't leave. That's everybody's environment, right? But I really dialed in on what I was good at, and then said, all right, this is my time to shine. And that's when it led to, at 16, selling this whole analytics model and these player development trajectory stuff. We got acqui-hired to the largest gaming organization, valued at $480 million at the time. And we were one of the only profitable divisions in the business when they raised the $220 million FTX deal. I was 16 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
And how much money did you put in your pocket from that deal as a 16-year-old?
So it's a really good question. So we sold 2 critical players for huge 6-7 figure buyouts. And I got the short end of the stick in a way, because there's a theme here. When I was young, I was naive and I didn't know.
Right.
And so I made $60,000 off of a huge 6-7 figure sale.
Wow.
The organization that salaried us took it all, basically. And then they left the scene because they're like, we covered our costs for the year. Thank you, young Austin. I appreciate you. And I never got to see them ever again. Wow. And so as that happened, we merged in with this organization, TSM. And at 16, they gave me a nice salary. I was making $80,000 then.
At 16?
At 16.
You're
and I was
still
managing
in high
25
school.
people, bro. Yeah.
You're still going to
high school. Still in high school.
Still doing like history.
Yes. Learning math, failing math.
25 people making a adult salary.
Yeah, this USC, this isn't Canadian monopoly money.
Yeah. That's funny. This is a real deal, man. That's like 110 in Monopoly money.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I'm freaking out. I'm like, I'm saving most of it, but I'm like, we got to reinvest. We got to get ready for the next thing. And what I noticed about while I was doing this, I'm managing 25 people. All these players are like the LeBron Jameses of gaming, basically. And
Wow.
LeBron James cares a lot about the sneakers he wears, the things that are critical to the game he plays, right? The bats the Yankees have, it's a big thing that went on. Data and analytics found the insights behind this new bat that they created,
Right.
et cetera. And I realized the computers are the basketball shoes in the gaming industry. The computers need to be performing well at the highest capacity. That's the advantage. And that's what started my next business, is I found within my own team of 25 people, there was a need for computer performance and making this the most aggressive machine so that the players never had to worry about anything but the game that they were playing. And all of the surrounding things around them were taken care of.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's like almost going upstream and say, during the gold rush, instead of trying to find the best spot to set up your miners, it's just, hey, let's improve the shovel.
Yeah, let's sell the best pick, and like the diamond covered pick that can pick for way longer than anybody else.
That is definitely a Minecraft analogy that you just did.
For sure, bro. That's exactly what it is.
Oh my God, I love that. The only reason I know is actually my little brother used to play Minecraft. He used to tell me about the diamond pick. So I'm curious about a handful of things now, and I'm sure everyone listening is too, right? So you go through this acqui-hire, you make, in my opinion, a ton of money for a 16-year-old. Like, you know how many burgers you got to flip to make that? A lot. And now you see this new opportunity to get into the performance side of gaming, to actually give competitors, the LeBron James of that world, an edge. And did you decide to do that as a side hustle to what you were already doing, or to fold it in and say, hey team, this is a new opportunity I'm thinking about? And how did you manage to do it all while being in school? I'm assuming still playing sports, extracurricular, as a friend. I'm curious what you are thinking at. Like, as a 16-year-old, most 16-year-olds are processing, who the cutest girl or guy in the class is, and they're trying to figure out, like, how do you sit beside them at lunch? That's like the dilemma of the day. This is a completely different world that you're experiencing at 16.
I think my environment was different. So it's hard to I've done a lot of this. I've been like, why doesn't anybody else want to do business? Look at this opportunity. Like, I look at, my classmates, like, why does nobody care? Why is everybody sucked into all of this stuff that doesn't really make you stand out? And I realized that not everybody has the environment that I have, right? And the mindset and the people around you reinforcing your beliefs. Because there was a time where my parents had switched. A lot of they were questioning my gaming usage at one point, especially my grandparents. Everybody in my family was sort of saying, why are you letting your son play this many video games? Like, isn't this going to rot his brain? This was that time of where video games is just coming up. And my parents, like, I had to prove it to them, but then they really supported me through it because I could show dollar signs behind it. Right. Like, money is a huge thing that validates a lot of these different things that I was doing.
It's the scorecard.
Right. It is a scorecard. And it's like when you can show your parents, like, oh, Mom, I could pay for dinner for us, and you do it. And then they're like, where'd the money come from? And it's like, well, I'm playing video games. Right. Wow. And for me, it's like, I had to start pulling back on some of my responsibilities. So some things, in order to play at this level, had to take a backseat. So sports became less and less for me. I kept trying, but I wasn't able to really put the time in. I would say that my friend groups sort of shrank. It was more of a quality over quantity thing, which that did change eventually. I went back and then I recircled back again. But for me, it was, I would go home early from school. I'd get the bare minimum done to basically be in school because I was really unhappy with my environment there. And I went home to my 3 monitors. You can imagine this sort of setup. And this is right before I'm sort of transitioning in the summer. And I found my co-founder after I was really realizing a lot of the work that I was doing at this company that I was acqui-hired into. My credit was taken from me. I was so young. No way this kid could be doing this stuff. No way he's finding these players and selling them. And so my higher ups were basically claiming all of my work. And I couldn't
Wow.
really say anything about it because they were one step away from the CEO's communication. And I was sort of screaming into like a tunnel that nobody could hear out of. And so I left that, kind of with a bitter taste in my mouth, and set out with my co-founders, say, this has to work. Like, we're going to raise the bar of performance for this industry, and we're not leaving until we do that. And I went from this cushy salary, this amazing opportunity. I was going out to LA once a month during high school. Like, it was out of a movie almost.
Wow.
And I was like, I went to zero. I went back to $0 in the bank account, all of it being reinvested into the business.
At what, 18?
Now I'm at 18.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm not even in college yet. And I'm just like, we have to make this work. So.
Wow. The single business decision that turned my business around was letting go of the finances and finding an expert to take them over. We hear that all the time inside the Founders Club. So if you're running a fast-growing brand, product, online, retail, your back office should not be what holds you back. So Fully Accountable is today's sponsor, and they are incredible at outsourcing that in-house financial team that you need. From bookkeeping to those fractional CFO services, and most importantly, like me, if you're looking to sell, they're going to M&A prep your company so that you can get the most bang for your buck. And most importantly, so you can focus on the growth. They have over 600 plus brands that work with them, and they really help when it comes to that financial decision making, which is so, so crucial. On top of that, if you mention this ad, they've told me that they'll waive the onboarding fees. So take full advantage. Reach out to Fully Accountable. One thing I do know about you is you did go to college.
Yeah.
Which is pretty insane considering, like, most people, the second they start to earn their confidence, and I say that in a meaningful way because we can earn our confidence through so many different vehicles. One of the ways to earn your confidence is obviously to have an idea, bring it to the world, and then have the world pay you for it. Mm-hmm. That's, like, to me, the best way to earn your confidence. Others is like to actually just like win things and get awards and like vanity metrics, but have an idea in your head, work on it, bring it to the world, have the world pay you for it, and then have that cycle go a few times. So like that way it's like not a scam, like this is real value loop. That makes you feel as an entrepreneur in like just an incredible way. It warms you up. Mm-hmm. So once you get that, you never really want to go to school, because the whole point of school essentially is to give you the tools to then go out and earn your confidence. It's really what it is. Mm-hmm. You've already earned your confidence. Why did you decide to go to university?
For me, it was a lot about my family. Like, one of my businesses, family businesses, is 3 generations coming up on, I would be the 4th, right? And the other one was 2 generations, I'd be coming up on the 3rd. And everybody had gone to school, right? Like, my family definitely created a lot of the wealth that they did during their time as I was growing up. They turned these businesses into monsters, but everybody in their family, their grandparents, their people had all gone to college, and it was like religion to them, right? And so the fact that I was breaking the chain in a semi-fortunate family now was ridiculous. Austin, I'm paying for your education. No way you couldn't go. Like, if you don't go to school, like, this is insane. And I was getting, my parents were getting so much from their, their parents to say, no way Austin can't go to school. And so it was a lot of that. Wow. And I didn't really want to push through that too much. And I think looking back, like, I really didn't need it. And I probably don't have a regret about going, but for sure, like, could have skipped it and probably needed to skip it, to be honest. Yeah.
So you go into university and you decide that this new project of yours is going to be the next best thing in gaming that everyone is going to use. It's the new shoes that LeBron is wearing.
Right.
And at what point did you decide, or did you realize that this was going to be the next thing? Like, sometimes, like, we know this as entrepreneurs, like, we're always testing things. Sometimes it starts by like in our head, and we see if we can like suss it out. Then we start like speaking to some people in our circle, which we'll get into because that's a really important thing. And then there's obviously like, all right, can we actually build this? And then now that we built it, will someone pay for it? At what point did you realize this is a real business. This is not just an idea?
I think for every entrepreneur, it's like that turning point where it's not about like, oh, is this going to work? Like, or do people really want this? But do they actually see value in having it, right? And I'm sure there's way more gray-haired people that have come on the pod and have talked about this. But for me, it was this, I felt I was in the shoes of the people that would be using it. And I was like, this is a necessity. And everybody around me is telling me that. And when we launched the product, we knew that it was like, there's this famous saying that it's like, for gamers built by gamers, right? And we were those people. We created that mantra, right? Like we were the people we were creating the product for. And if we were the super users, like everybody else would be. And the way we distributed this and got it out was all of our network from competing were our super users, and they were customers before they were marketers of our product. And that's what got the flywheel going and quickly turned into 365 days of just ups and downs and success that ended up leading to, us being acquired within a year, basically.
And was that always the plan? I'm always asking people, what is the end of the story? And what you're communicating for people who are listening is Austin is about to describe his second acqui-hire acquisition before the age of 20.
Yeah.
When did that come about? Did you always knew that was the next step for you guys, was to sell this and move it into a bigger company?
We thought a lot about raising institutional capital. And, I think when we were doing this, like, yes, some younger kids were raising a lot of money. And my co-founder he was 30, right? And so he was sort of the gray hair in the room sometimes. But we felt like, the path for us was finding a partner and really getting this out to the world in a much bigger way. And so it wasn't the strategy. We just were, young kids just scaling a company we were passionate about, but somebody came knocking on the door with an offer we just couldn't refuse and promised us a lot of the things that we wanted to do in the industry. And it just felt like a perfect fit.
Was there, one thing I often think about a lot is what happens when you achieve success at such a young age. And, for myself, definitely did not achieve anything significant at 19 or 16, but 25 is still pretty young to sell your business in a pretty decent way. I think about a lot what it means to you, but more importantly, if you're able to look back, and it's not too long ago for you, what was a lesson that you feel that you had to unlearn from this process? And the reason why I asked that is because so much of what we do as entrepreneurs is built around identity. And it's our identity to our business, it's our identity to the world, and specifically as a young entrepreneur, because there's a lot of young entrepreneurs that listen to this. It's the identity to the people that create validation in your life. And as a young entrepreneur, it's typically your parents or your family or your uncles or your best friends. So was there a lesson you think that you had to unlearn now as a 21-year-old, building and growing? I know you have incredible ambitions for what you want to do. Was there a lesson you think you had to unlearn?
Yeah, I went at so much of this with rose-colored glasses because for me, business is like, it's my passion. It's like what people's, roller hockey is, or their, whatever.
Got hockey tonight.
Yeah, good, right? So I knew it was going to be relevant, right? Like, and don't get me wrong, like I'm a human too. I love all these things, but I love business. They go hand in hand. They're just as fun for me. And I approached business so much as everybody's has the same passion and the same love of this as I do. And I quickly realized after, it was quick, but then it just took a long-term deal of unlearning this, was not everybody has the same passions. And when you hire people and when you work with people, they don't love the business the world as much as you do. They're clocking out at 5, right? Or they're just going 50% in it all. And I didn't really understand that. And so as a leader, I led with, this is everything for me. Let's work weekends. And I had my fair share of employees that would, right? And they would grind with me on the weekends. Then I had the other half that just didn't. And they were burning out and they were really unhappy with the way that I guess I was creating the environment. And I think that was something that I had to unlearn, and is like understanding and reading people better was really like what I needed to learn and unlearn of myself, I would say.
Wow. I would also say, like, to have the ability to self-evaluate is something that I've noticed that you've been able to do really quickly. And I do that as well, which is why I was able to kind of like see it in you. But it's a double-edged sword, because when you self-evaluate, sometimes you can kind of beat yourself up a little bit. And one thing that I think a lot of the viewers listening to this would really appreciate is how you go about your own decision making. The reason I bring this up is because, the other day you're like, oh, I might go back to school. And I was like, in my head, I was like, he's not going back to school. Like, there's just no way. But that's intrusive thoughts, right? These things they come back to, I might go back to school. I might do this. I might do that. And how do you balance your decision making? As a 21-year-old, you have the entire world in front of you, yet you still have a really successful business. You still have a team. You have people who depend on you. How do you navigate what's next for Austin at this stage in your life?
I think it's a good question. I think a lot of this has been about like my story. And I think like some people will resonate with all of that. But I think the biggest lesson I've had in my life, especially being so young, and a lot of people can say impressionable, right? It's being, I guess, unapologetically you, right? I am who I am. I'm not going to be loved by everyone. And, and some people might like me, some people might not, right? But being okay in my own skin is something that I found early in my career, and still early in my career, to be a guiding light. And I think a lot of my employees and the team that we have got behind who I am and this story, and I guess the loving person that I am, because I think this about me, but I want to help everybody. If they, if I can help, I want to lend a hand. And I think my team realized that, like, this is who I am. I'm not, going to pretend to be somebody else. And let's build scale. And the friendships I've built all are because of that. And I never kind of teetered on the line of trying to be somebody else, especially through all of the learnings that I had right through, when I was in this, esports world, and I was acqui-hired by that group that was worth $480 million. I was around a lot of people that were almost trying to mold and change me into somebody who I wasn't. Wow. And I think maintaining who you are and not changing is so, so important to business, especially still as I'm not done yet. I'm just starting, right? And I think a lot of these people have had massive exits and are just done, right? They're throwing the towel in. Business is still a love of theirs, but they're done. And I think for me, it's like, this is a game I'll play till I die. My grandfather, he still runs a business, and he's 86 now. Wow. And for him, his passion is building his car collection and continuing to grow his business. And I have these mentors around me that are unapologetically them. They continue to love this game, and I will continue to build no matter how successful I am, in my opinion. So,
wow. This is my mind is blown, because as a 30-year-old, to get to the point where now I could be unapologetically myself, which is a great term that Jay Carlos uses all the time, and it's a journey to get there. For most people, to be there at 21 is absolutely insane. To be able to recognize that, yeah, the world is constantly conspiring to change us and to manipulate us to do other things that might not be 100% aligned with who we are and what we stand for. And what I also believe in, and I'm really curious to where this comes from you, you know, you just mentioned your grandfather, your parents are entrepreneurs, is this game that we describe, that we speak about, the game of business, the game of building enterprise value, the game of, you know, in my opinion, entrepreneurs run the world, right? It's not about money. It's about entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs continue to push the envelope forward. Everyone's like at AI and advancements, like who's building this stuff? It's crazy entrepreneurs. As you started this journey at a young age, was there one mentor or one person in your life that really helped you take yourself more seriously in a world where, I mean, I remember signing leases at 18 where nobody does. Nobody, you're just a kid.
Yeah.
And then for a lot of people, you're like a stupid kid with a little bit of a talent that they want to extract value out of.
Right.
Who was in your corner, or maybe it was a handful of people that really helped you stay on track to get to where you are today?
There was two people, like, you know, early in my like high school, like career of gaming, you know, one, the biggest mentor was the unhappiness of the environments that I was in. I was not happy with the schooling system, you know, and that's been.
What were you not happy about in the schooling system?
Nobody supported any sort of idea of business. Like it was like, I was so the odd man out in the room. They honestly made me look like I was crazy. And I was in a political environment too, that also affects that, right? I think we have to think about it. It's in a very like anti-business environment, sort of like academically, very, very odd. And I would go home to the dinner table and be like, what am I like learning? What is this environment? This doesn't make sense to me. And as I got later in life and met these two mentors, you know, Hector Rosero, who was this UCLA speaker, you know, analytics guy in gaming. He's still in gaming, by the way, massively successful. One of the like pivotal people in my life that's just would always treat me like I was his equal. I was 30 and he would be brutally honest to me. Austin, you should not be doing this. This is really, really stupid. And he'd be so open with me. And then the real person I think helped me realize that I have no regrets about anything. And like, I'm happy where I'm at and I don't have an identity crisis. Is this friend that I met when I went to a conference at 18 in London named Nick Helbs. And Nick knew who he was. He was super young. He was 25 at the time. And he was growing a huge business. And he's like, I was in your shoes, Austin. You're on the right path. And anytime I like ran into a problem with like Google ads or anything, I could call Nick. And Nick was going to tell me a story. Nick was going to tell me an experience. And I think it's so like that's part of why I'm in the Founders Club and why I've joined all these different groups is the people that have done it before and want to give you not the advice, but the shared experience was so powerful for me. It was, you know, an analogy that Nick would always give me. And I'll give it to you because I think it's so important. When the days are hard, you know, there's always this line of like a brick a day. And when you don't want to go lay a brick to build the wall or build your house, that you at least had to do one brick. And you would get out of bed, you would grab your trowel, you would grab your cement. And once you laid one brick, what are you going to do? Go back to bed after you laid one? No, you're going to lay 10, right?
Right.
And on the days you don't want to do things, you still got to get out of bed, lay the brick, put down, you know, certain work in the business to move it forward. And these two people were like echoing through my mind as I was building this business. And that's why I think, you know, mentorship and shared experiences were so critical for me. So I didn't have the identity crisis because these people were doing it already.
It's such a common trend in entrepreneurship because I think by virtue, entrepreneurship is designed to be this deserted island, right? You got to go, like no one else believes in you. No one understands your idea. You just got to go. And then eventually at some point it circles back. We were like, remember I said this would be a big deal. I remember I would say that to people about the weighted blanket. They're like, what is that? That doesn't make sense. And this and that, it's not going to wash well. And and it's a scam product and all this stuff. And then 3 years later, they're like, oh, I remember when you were starting the weighted blanket. I knew it was always going to be amazing. It's like, yeah, sure you did, right? But one thing you just highlighted, and I really want to double click into it because I think it's so pivotal. And it's actually, you mentioned the Founders Club, and it is one of the reasons why we started it, one of many reasons. But what you're describing is something that I've coined as the it's okay theory. And what I mean by that is we've all been on, maybe a workout, or we went on a run, like doing something very difficult. Whether it's even when I did my ayahuasca journey, whatever it is, something very difficult, even if you're deep and down in your business. And you're able to speak to someone who's, maybe ahead of you. So in like the ayahuasca journey, it's like the shaman, these people are like professionals, maybe if you're at the gym, it's the trainer or whatever it is, right? Or in business, it's someone who's a decade or two ahead of you that you look up to, and you're down and out. You're like, I don't know about this thing. I have tons of doubts. And that person, all they have to look at you and go, hey, it's okay. It's supposed to be this way. That's it. And just that alone is enough of a push and validation for an entrepreneur to keep going. Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget the first ever P&L review I ever did was 19 years old. And I've never looked at a balance sheet before. I didn't even know what that was. Balance sheet? Like, there was no GBT. I couldn't put it into GBT and be like, yo, is my shit good or not? Like now you can do that.
Yeah,
you
build
can work,
it for me, right?
Yeah, you can work with GBT to understand your P&L. It's really, and if you're not doing that, do that. It's really magical. It could be your little CFO if you wanted. And I'm looking at this P&L, and I scroll all the way down to the bottom, and I see the brackets, and I see brackets at 1.1 million. I don't know what brackets mean. So I'm on the call. I'm all excited. I'm like 1.1 net profit bracket, 1.1 million. We're good. What a year, in our first real 12 months. And the accountant's like, dude, what? The brackets is a negative. I said, we lost 1.1 million. What? Are you kidding me? No, I was freaking out, And it was like, I was like, this business sucks. I got to fire everybody. I got to trim this. I got to trim that. I went out and, he was an accountant, but he was also a fractional CFO for other people, not for us. We couldn't pay him for that. But he's like, hey, like, let's set up a time for 30 minutes. I'll actually walk through this. It's actually not bad. You don't know how to read it. And that 30 minutes changed my entire life. Because 30 minutes from someone that understood the P&L, I started to understand that like there's deferred revenue, which is revenue that like we got, but it doesn't count on a P&L. And all I needed was like an it's okay from someone that looks at P&Ls all day. And it was the catalyst of me not literally exploding this business, because that's what I would have done. I would have exploded. I would have fired everybody. I would have went crazy. And someone said, hey, it's okay. Here's a couple of tweaks that I would focus on for this quarter. You're good. And that's all I needed. And it sounds like that's exactly what you had at multiple times through your journey, where like someone's literally saying like, hey, Austin, don't worry about that.
There was times so much in this where I was questioning everything, and you just made a phone call to somebody who had been in this or was an expert in this. And they're like, no, look at it this way. Oh, wow. It's like, oh, you got the architectural documents upside down, right? Just like you're not looking at the brackets, right? Like, you learn by fire. And I think a lot of what people don't realize is like, school doesn't teach you this. You need to experience these things. You need to go run and look at things at a P&L, at, the way Google Ads is structured, to actually understand how to do these things. And it's like, oh, well, I need to go take classes in order to be good at this or to be ready for this. It's not the truth. You need to go experience it and learn it, in my opinion, by experiencing it and working and doing it. So, but I completely agree. It's crazy.
This episode is brought to you by Format, the platform that's quietly powering brands like Buy-Sell, Backcountry, Unilever, Glossier, Adapt Naturals, GNC, Ilia Cosmetics, As Seen on TV, and has been partnering with the leading agencies such as Tenuity, Common Thread Collective. So while you're debating which MarTech tool to sunset, these brands are building high-converting funnels faster than you can say growth loop. Format lets you launch campaign-specific landing pages with zero dev time, built-in heat maps, and an AI strategy that actually makes sense. So no more Frankenstein funnels, 14 tabs to change a CTA. If your team is lean, but your goals are not, head to formatcommerce.com. It's basically like Shopify and Figma had a very fast and very smart baby. Check it out.
And one thing that for the people listening that I've, you're obviously a fantastic member of the club. We've done multiple events. We were able to do Costa Rica together, which was our highest rated event of all time. All the feedback just came in. So we had an amazing time. Costa Rica was awesome. And what you're describing is the idea of going into your network, joining communities and asking for questions. The reason I'm bringing that up is because I want people to understand the essence of actually doing that. And you cannot just be a person that goes out there and just takes and takes and takes. And what I told this about Chris within like the first 3 days of meeting you. I said, that Austin guy constantly wants to help people. And it's the beauty of a relationship is if you want to grow in this life, relationships are equal part giving and taking. You got to be able to be a giver and not just a taker, because no one wants to be around just a taker. Mm-hmm. Where did you learn that as a young entrepreneur? Where did you learn this essence of I want to help everyone I can? I've literally seen you waste a week of your life helping people that you have no business helping because they had a problem that you thought you could solve. Where does that come from for you?
I think a lot about, there's so many stuff you just hit on. I think being a part of a community, and then also what the value, the play you provide in the community is, and why people want to be around you is, what value do you provide that person? Because everybody's selfish in their own way. And I look at the way I experience and talk to people and grow my friend group, because for me, it's a lot now about quality over quantity, is what value do I provide the people around me? And then they'll decide if they want to be around me, right? And I think for me, I've always said, let me lend a hand, let me gain experience. It's always been about, let me actually just experience this. It goes back to this entire whole thing that we talked about. It's like, if you want to learn something, you have to experience it. So if I volunteer myself on something new because I'm technical and I can figure it out eventually, that's what the emphasis of that was. And I also have always said, been around people that were highly, highly successful, way more successful than I am. And if I was able to provide value to them, they wanted to be around me. And I felt like, wow, this is my way of gaining insight from these titans of people, is by volunteering myself to doing things that are, you roll your sleeves up and you get it done for,
So powerful. What is the next, you're 21, which I think is the youngest guest we've had. Not the youngest in the club. You're close, but you're not the youngest. We do have a 19-year-old legend.
I love that.
Charlie Kerrigan. Shout out Charlie. What an absolute stud. But because you're 21, this is going to be a very fun question. Is what does the life of 30-year-old Austin, and maybe in 9 years, we'll play this clip back to you. What does the life look like and feel like for 30-year-old Austin?
I mean, every day I feel like I'm doing something that fulfills me, right? And I think I'll never be fully fulfilled. I think that's like this passion and fire in me always. I joke with a friend of mine, and we have these goals for ourselves that, some might call us crazy. And sometimes when I explain these goals to people, they look at me with 18 eyeballs. But I aspire to have toys and things, not because I think it's going to make me happy, but because I've admired it since I was so young, and I think it's cool. And it's like, I want to be in a place where I have a family and a group of people around me that are just exceptional, and we're doing incredibly cool things.
So at 30,
yeah,
you have a family.
Yeah, maybe. So, in some capacity, maybe. You're 30, so we'll see.
Yeah, I might not be the North Star.
Maybe at least a girlfriend or something like that,
Okay, a girlfriend.
Yeah, we'll start there.
And I actually want to talk about the toys. I want to talk about the toys because I think every entrepreneur at some point wants some toys. We want some materialistic things.
Yeah.
It's inevitable, specifically as a young entrepreneur, because we don't have 3 kids to spend our money on and private school to pay for.
Right.
And then you just have yourself and maybe some rent and a couple bills.
Yeah.
So what are these material things that you're seeking? What is it?
It's like, I don't know.
Is it a Lambo?
No.
What is it?
No, it's like, it's bigger. It's like, I want a private jet.
You want a jet?
Yeah, I want a jet. That's like, I grew up just like looking at it, probably like a G5 or G6. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Do you know how much a G5 and G6 cost?
Yeah, crazy. If you want it new or used, I know both prices.
Which one do you want?
Probably the used. Better bang for your buck there, right? Yeah.
Well, where are you going to park at?
Opelika. Right in front of the racetrack. That type of stuff. That's what I love. But
wow.
Aspirational things. A lot of hard work needs to go between then and now.
And what is that jet? If you're able to kind of take a breath and, sit with it. Now you have it. All right. This is my favorite part of manifestation. Yeah. So you have the jet. And for those of you listening, if whatever you want, you can do this at the same time. So you can kind of like just sit with it, take a deep breath. I have the jet. Or whatever it is that you want. It's at, was it Opelika?
Yeah.
Okay. It's sitting at Opelika. Aaron sends me a text. Says, yeah, let's go to the Bahamas. You're like, no problem. Gas the jet. What does that look like and feel like if you're able to really like see the jet, walking up to it? What is the feeling that it gives you?
It's just like freedom to me, like completely. I get agitated. My parents know this. Like when I was younger, like why when I bought my own ticket, why am I flying by the toilet? Like what is this? Like it just would make me angry. And I think I've always found different ways to motivate myself. Like even when my world doesn't suck, like candidly it doesn't suck, but I'd always find something that I was like annoyed about that I could work harder to get. I just think it's like the North Star in terms of like my motivation. That's just how my mind works. It's not materialistically driven, but it's like the experiences, the time wasted in the airport. Like you fly a ton, I'm sure you know. So that's why it's there. It's not because it's like, I think the world's going to be solved when I have a jet, but it's like, it's freedom. It'll always be the next thing, right? You're never fully fulfilled. But I think some people have that like number they want to hit to be fulfilled and be happy. It's like, I don't think I have that number.
Yeah.
And maybe it's just because I'm young, but I think, it's just the fire in me, and we'll see. I don't think it will die.
The fire never really changes. Never dies, it changes.
Yeah.
Right. And one of the things that I've noticed is, I've never wanted a jet, only because, one, I've never been on one. So, I've been on a plane, but I haven't been on a jet. And I remember, I don't know if I've said this before on the pod, but I have a mentor of mine, and he got a brand new Ferrari, and there's like 19 of them or something less, sorry. There's 4 of them in Canada, 19 of them in North America. He has one in Canada. And I don't know how much you paid, but it was in the millions of dollars for this Ferrari. I think he bought it off of like Travis Scott or whatever. And I go to him and he's like, you wanna go for a spin? Yeah. So I get in. It's the most insane thing of all time. I get out and he goes, so like you want one? I was like, nah, I don't want one. And this was before we sold Hush. Ferrari's not for me, is what I told him. That's what I said. And he looked at me with like the largest, imagine the biggest, most disgusted look he could possibly give. And I was like, oh my God, I just hurt his feelings. Like, I didn't say it was a bad car. I don't know. I fucked it up. I felt like I did something wrong. And I was like, hey, like the car is amazing. It's just not for me. And he's like, you are not allowed to say that until you've owned your own Ferrari and have decided for yourself that it's not for you. Because he's like, and most people might not agree with this, but it hit home for me. He said, it's a coward's way out of not working for something by just determining arbitrarily that it's not for you. And I always thought of that pretty much for everything. It's like, almost like I can't say I don't want a jet until I've had a jet in some way, shape, or form, whether it's jet pass or some sort of experience where I've known, you know what, that's really not for me. I've tried it. And it's almost like, people say, oh, I don't like those hotels. It's like, well, have you been to one? You know, like I could tell you there's certain hotels I don't like because I've been there.
Or take one step back. It's, oh, I don't like that industry. I don't like that business. It's like, oh, have you tried it? Have you like, oh, you don't like the work that's entailed that goes with it? Like, you don't want to do the work, you know? And it's like, oh, well, like, you know, can I get your help to do it? And then it spirals. It's like, some people just don't want these things because they don't want to try them because it entails something that they're not willing to do.
It was like my house. You know, I said I would never own a house. Mathematically, it didn't make sense. I didn't want to be trapped. I wanted the freedom. I liked the flexibility to move. And then, you know, one of the members in the club who owns a lot of houses, I was like, thinking about this house. I can't rent it. Like I really want it though, but I can't rent it. So like, I got to buy it. Should I buy it? And he's like, you have such a negative kind of affinity towards owning a house. You know, have you owned one? I was like, no. That's the whole point. And he's like, well, then why don't you try it and see, you know, if maybe you're right, maybe it's not for you. And the truth is, mathematically didn't make sense. Probably money would do better elsewhere. But I love my house. I love it more than, I mean, you've been to my house. I love my house more than anything else. I would give away so many other things before I let anyone touch my house, right? But the mathematical brain, the analytical brain in my head was like, this is a stupid move. And so he was totally right. And it was one of the best decisions I've made. So it's something that I also like encourage people, and like you naturally have that. It's like, don't close the door until you've seen what's on the other side. And there's a beauty to that, specifically in entrepreneurship.
Right. And the lesson is past the, you know, stupid materialistic things, but deeper in that, which is the business, the partner you might pick up, both emotionally, you know, that, you know, partner that you might marry, but also the business partner, right? It's like, go try these things. Don't say you don't want a business partner. Don't say you don't want, you know, to have whatever it is, but try it at least. Because what's the harm in trying, right?
Wow.
That's at least how I look at these things. When I volunteer myself to do these things and give, it's like I'm trying and I'm learning at the same time. So at least you're not getting anything, nothing out of it. You're definitely getting something, and you're making the other person feel better too.
There's magic in that. And it's crazy at 21 that you have this entire mindset. It's really special. Me at 21, I was like blending juices and smoothies in the morning, DJing on weekends so I could pay rent, handing out flyers at 5 a.m. and it's freezing. Oh God.
That's the same values are there though, right?
Yeah.
You know, driven and wanting to figure something out, right? So
one thing we do at the end of this pod, it's my favorite question. And actually, the other day we had Swan on, and she asked me the inverse of the question I'm about to ask you. So I am thinking of asking you both, but we're going to start with the one that I always ask at the end of the pod. So picture we bring a chair here at the front of the table, and we're able to bring a younger version of Austin, any age that you go to when you think about, okay, what's this age that I'm going to go to? And in your case, there's only 21 years to choose from. So picture an age, okay? When you answer the question, start with the age that you go to. So we're going to bring this younger version of Austin right here. And you've already give you the opportunity to share one message with this younger version of yourself. How old is the Austin sitting here today, right now? And what would the message be?
I think it'd be Austin at 15 probably, which is great. It's not that much, you know, if you think about it. But it was right when I started to find some success. And I would say to myself that don't always assume the worst in people, and don't always assume the best, but somewhere in the middle, and call it what it is. I had at times too much negativity, and at times too much rose-colored glasses on. And I think I could have found more success and more ability to connect with people if I was able to have the wisdom that I have now, and understanding that the even-keeled person sort of wins the race, right? Like, don't go too hot, don't go too cold. And that's probably what I would say.
Wow.
What would you say?
You asking me?
Yeah.
Wow.
You're 15.
Oof. Oh, to my 15. Oof. 15-year-old Aaron is approaching draft year for hockey, something I've worked for since I was 5 years old. And my draft year, I broke my collarbone twice in a row.
Holy shit.
I didn't end up getting drafted, which was a massive disappointment in my life, probably the largest, if not the biggest ever. So if that version was here, I would say probably what I would say to every age of myself. I would say that it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be okay. I think I would say that at 12, at 15, any significant moment in my life, even post-acquisition when I was like, holy shit, I would say it's gonna be okay. You know, at every high, it's gonna be fine, and every low, it's gonna be okay. You know, because you're only out when you're dead. Right. And if I can look at my hands and I can feel my heartbeat, I'm in the game. And I think it's an important reminder because life will beat us down. You're gonna get smashed. It's coming your way. Me and my friends, we have a group chat. And from time to time, we'll literally just throw in the group chat, "Good morning, gents. A bad day's coming." That's it. And people would be like, "That is negativity." It's like, nah, that's just reality. That's just reality.
Break it
so
in.
If today's a good day, enjoy it.
Yeah.
Because a bad day's coming.
Right.
And you mentioned staying even keeled, basically being neutral, really powerful skill to have. Not to get too high when things are good, not get too low when things are bad. But knowing that it's going to be okay and knowing what the most important thing is to you as a whole. And, you know, even during my own ayahuasca journey, I was able to experience the worst. You know, I was experiencing my own funeral and my dad's funeral and just really awful things. And what you realize is, which leads into my next question, which is what Swan asked me, is when it's all said and done and you're at the end of your life, and hopefully that isn't a very long time from now, there's only really a handful of things that truly matter. Mm-hmm. And the truth is those handful of things are all that's ever really mattered. Nothing else really mattered. And I believe that the faster we can start to live life from that lens, we will be able to squeeze more out of it. And that lens is understanding that the people you spend your time with better be ones that you love and that you enjoy. The friends you keep around you, the circles you associate to, everything is important. Everything is important. And that's enables you to be like, you know what, everything's okay because I have the important things. Mm-hmm. And that's for sure one lesson. And the last question, and Swan asked this, so I'm stealing her question, but we can do it, is if you were to fast forward to the end of your life, and the way she described it, I thought was so magical. So for those of you that didn't listen to that episode, we'll bring it up for you. She described it as best business plans are built backwards. What do we want at the end? And then we build backwards from it, right? Till today. Why don't we do the same with our life? What do you want at the end of your life? And then why don't we build backwards to today? And are you doing the things today that lead up to your definition of a successful life, of a happy and fulfilled life?
We always have North Stars in business. What's your North Star of life?
In life.
Right?
So what do you want to, be remembered as at the end of your life?
I think my grandfather is toward the end of his life. He's starting to, get a bit old and things aren't starting to work. And I sort of asked him a question like that as well. Mm-hmm. And it's freedom, happiness, and a legacy you'll be remembered for. And I think for me, it's those things. I want to be remembered as, somebody who brought value to the people around me, my family, my friends. And I think that's the most important thing, no matter how successful I am, right? What will you be remembered for? My grandfather had a best friend, and I've never seen a funeral packed so heavily. he
Wow.
left a legacy. And my grandfather has done the same. And I think that's what I think matters the most.
Wow. Magical. Was there one thing that we potentially did not cover before we leave that you would want to share with the audience, with the world, with the people listening? One message that you would want to share with everyone before we leave here today?
I would say that, most of the time, the people around you don't change. You change. And realizing that, and then persisting forward and growing, but also then putting yourself around people who are more like you, because that's been the era of what I've been doing in my life. And I haven't seen such a powerful impact in my life till now at doing that, and putting people around me like yourself and others who look at life differently in good ways, but people that really can pull you up and motivate you and be the part of your next generation or your future. So
Cheating your way into a winning environment is what I call it, which is one of the main reasons we started the community, is to create a paywall essentially that has highly vetted people on the other side. So that way you can cheat your way into whatever the obstacle is in front of you. And the most beautiful thing about being surrounded by like-minded individuals is that you are rarely the first to be dealing with whatever you're dealing with. You're rarely the first person. And yet we just, natural inclination is to always figure it all out on our own, when it doesn't have to be that way. And if it's a serious hack to life, is just to be able to help, but also rely on others to be there for you. And that's the beauty of a common relationship.
Right. And it's like, I've had that throughout my life, and it's like, let's keep creating that. And where I aspire to be, I want to be around. So yeah, I
love it.
Those are my final words.
Austin, thank you for coming on for your first ever pod. Wow. This is going to go down in the books as your first ever pod, because you're going to do, so much. Before we wrap it up, I want to thank you for being not only a great member to the club, but more importantly, a good energy. And that goes a long way. It goes a long way. People want to be around you. They love spending time with you. And I know that's something that most people don't talk about, but I think you realize that because you have so many friends. And I remember last week, I was like, Austin's got 11 plans on a Sunday that he's bouncing from one to another. But it's a testament to having really good energy. And beyond success and business and all that stuff, I always tell people, just like, be a good energy, and good energy comes back to you. And you've mastered that at such a young age. So kudos to you, brother. Thank you for coming on the pod.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Founder to Founder podcast. And I have one favor, just one favor to ask. Is the only favor I'll ever ask from you. And if you liked what you listened to please like, subscribe, and please just leave a comment. Let us know what you think, how we can make it better. We are all in on delivering value to you. And all we ask in return is that you hit that subscribe. It goes a long way for what we're trying to build here. And as always, we post an episode every single Wednesday. So stay tuned, and thank you for tuning in.